Thanks a lot, all of you, for joining today's class. We have missed lab classes earlier, so this class is for the makeup of those of that missed class. Actually, we have already completed the discussion on the listed experiments, what we can conduct online. However, you all know that we would like to conduct the experiment in the laboratory when we will be uh, able to conduct the experiment in the laboratory, chemistry laboratory. We want to conduct all the experiment there, and some of the experiments actually require the data because it containing some calculation. Without data, we cannot conduct the calculation. So we have to wait for the laboratory experiment conducting inside the chemistry lab. So what we can do here, we have already found that we just discussed about the objective. We have discussed about the mm, experimental procedure, and also I have demonstrated, I have shared some demonstration with you how to conduct the experiment by using some video clips. However, you will get chance to conduct the experiment in the laboratory later when we'll be able to go to the campus. As we have already completed our discussion, so you have received some home assignment already, and I'd like to request you to complete the home assignment and submit. Today, as just as a review class, I would like to talk about the lab report preparation, how you will prepare your lab report. Some of you already attended that class, how to prepare the lab report, but for those who missed that class and who did not attend, who didn't find how to prepare the lab report, for those especially, this will be helpful. So please listen to me carefully. How like you will be able to prepare the lab report. Here, this is the lab manual that usually I share with you for describing the theoretical background, objective, and procedure of the experiment. So as the safety rules is very much crucial and important whenever we want to carry out any kind of work in the chemistry laboratory. That's why when you will prepare the lab report, first you have to write down the safety rules in the chemistry lab. You can use directly this lab manual for listing the safety rules, general safety rules, safety for the chemicals, safety for the equipment. Then our second part is second discussion on the identification of lab apparatus with their function. Identification of lab apparatus with their function. This is also important because whenever you design an experiment, when you will conduct any experiment, you must know which laboratory apparatus is used for what purposes. That's why it is also mandatory to write down the function as well as the diagram. You have to draw the diagram of the laboratory apparatus. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to identify. So for identification process, it is important to draw the diagram of the apparatus. And another thing for the function, you can just write down the functions just beside your diagram. This is the second and the first. as I told, the safety rules. Second, the functions of lab apparatus. Third is the flame test. Qualitative inorganic analysis, identification of cation by flame test. You can just follow the manual as it is objective, theory, apparatus, procedure, and this table. Also the limitation. What you will do blank is this table, because we do not know still which compound we are going to analyze in our laboratory. That's why after conducting the experiment in the laboratory, you will fill up this table. I have written here some compounds name just for your understanding. It's a kind of demo data. But whenever you will conduct this experiment by yourself, then you will find which type of compounds we are analyzing. And you will list those compounds as their chemical name, chemical formula, which ion you identified, and how, what was the observed color of the flame. By this pattern, you will write down this table, complete this table. So after the flame test, I'd like to discuss about ask you to write down the experiment for anion identification. That was cation identification, here the anion identification. You will follow the instruction here, introduction, and theoretical background, and which type of ions we usually identify, like common anion, apparatus for qualitative and analysis, which type of apparatus figure, that means apparatus, and the procedure. This for chloride ion, this for iodide ion, round ring, this for nitrate, for carbonate, and this for sulfate. After this, I'd like to ask you to write down the preparation of stock solution having various strength by applying concept of solution stoichiometry and calculation of the molecular weight of the compound. Here, only the preparation of a solution. In this case, you will write down the theory, the calculation part. Here, equipment procedure as it is, but only in this case, calculation part, as we haven't prepared any stock solution. So you have to wait for the laboratory conduction. When we will conduct this experiment in the lab, there you will find some data and you can conduct this calculation. So except this calculation part, you can write down the other. This one is not required. This table is just to show how to calculate the molecular weight for your reference. So you don't need to write anything about this table. You can skip this table, and also you can skip this calculation also. This is just for your learning purpose, not the lab report purpose. Then acid-base titration, as it is objective theory, endpoint and equivalent point, because this is important. What you will skip here, indicator. Indicator part starts from here. All about the indicator you can skip up to here. Up to this table you can skip. Then some important terminologies. These are important to represent the concentration, normality, molarity, equipment, and procedure. And also here is a calculation part, what you don't need to write now, because you have to wait for the laboratory conduction. These are the demo data, but when you will conduct this experiment in the laboratory, you will get the real data, initial Biot rate reading, final Biot rate reading. Now from initial and final Biot rate reading, you will get the volume of acid or volume of the known solution, and putting that value in this equation, you'll find the concentration of the unknown solution. So you have to keep running this table as well as this calculation. To determine the heat of solution, there are also calculation need to be done. So you will just write the objective, theoretical background, procedure, but this table for result and calculation should be kept blank because we don't know how much potassium nitrate or sodium hydroxide will be taken, how much solvent will be taken, and what would be the initial and final temperature. So you have to keep this blank, and the calculation part as well. You will write down the calculation, you will do the calculation after conducting the experiment in the lab. Identification of iron 2 and iron 3 ions. Here actually there are two methods described in this laboratory manual. So you can write down the first method because we usually follow the first method in the lab, in the chemistry lab, in our chemistry lab. So you just only write down the first method. You don't need to write the second method, just as it is. Is chemical reaction, apparatus, materials, and procedure and observation. What you will do in the laboratory, you will just write by your own word. That's it. Second method, this is second method, you don't need to write it. And last one is this one. Reduction of iron 2 and iron 2 ion to metallic iron by using charcoal block and blow pipe method. Actually, there is no data for the calculation. There is nothing there to calculate. So you will just write down the objective, theoretical background, and apparatus from the demonstration. When you will be able to conduct this experiment, you will write down, you will find the apparatus, charcoal block, blow pipe, then the watch glass, mortar, spatula, Bunsen burner. These are the apparatus. You have already seen the video demonstration, so you can write down from there also the apparatus. Procedure, already written here the procedure. Result and discussion, actually nothing to write, only few lines, one line even. Okay, because what did you find by the magnetic separation? You have separated the pure iron. So, and discussion, if you face any problem during the conduction of this experiment, you may write down in the discussion. That's it. All right, that's all for the instruction of writing the lab report. The submission of this lab report will be announced later. That is, the date of submission of this lab report will be announced later, because we have to wait for the opportunity to carry out the experiment in the lab. Otherwise, we cannot complete the lab report. What I have asked you before, you have found that there are some parts which you can start even now, which you can complete even now. You can just keep the portion blank where the data and calculation part to be completed. So except that data and calculation part, rest of the portion you can start writing now, and you have to wait for the experimental conduction, and then you can fulfill the rest of the part, including the result and calculation.